I feel like I'm going to need this tonight because we are on chapters 180 and 181 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Volume 6, baby. Volume 6, and Volume 6 has been a trip so far. Oh man, the story gets better and better, but Volume 6, Volume 5 came out swinging, with them just like going into town and following the Brocade Immortal. This not only came out swinging, it came out with a freaking semi-truck ready to run you over. With all the reveals, with everything so far, Xie Lian and San Long seem to understand where they stand with one another, or rather, Xie Lian understands where Hua Cheng stands with him, and he's like, okay. And so the ball is technically in Xie Lian's court, and he gave Hua Cheng a little hug back, but he's not like fully confessed everything. The ball's in his court, he can do whatever he wants with it, but we gotta get out of this cave first. And meanwhile, Bai WuXiang is back, and might be this little bandaged boy that we've been with the entire time. So, that's pretty insane. Yeah. So, I've got some comments, and we also need to talk about chapter 94 of the Manhua. What a chapter it is! Today is a beautiful day. 2 chapters of Heaven Official's Blessing and a chapter of the Manhua that's introducing one of my favorite characters. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. But yeah, we need to talk about this. We might as well talk about the Manhua first. We might as well just get it out of the way. Talk about it, and then I'll talk about the comments, and then we'll start the story, right? The Star Ember, dear God, I'm so excited. So we have chapter 94 this week. We are going to take a break next week, and then hopefully for part 59, we'll have chapter 95. So basically every other week at this point is my plan at looking at the Manhua chapters. But this chapter's really good. Oh my gosh, I forgot how quickly we got to things happening in the Manhua, and Volume 2, I forget the things just start happening, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, we're just going to dive right into it then. So yeah, we have Lan Chuan coming back here, and then I like that Xie Lian's like, San Long, I got this. I can handle this, don't you worry. I really like the way that Star Ember draws Lan Chuan. She makes, I guess just say Star Ember, makes them look very distinct. I like their hair is very thick and kind of coarse, which has me excited to see Xie Ying whenever they get drawing them. I'm really excited to see that coarse hair, all big lion's mane of hair. I can't wait to see it. But I like that, and I like the red accents, like the little Rambo bandana that Lan Chuan has, and the scarf. It's very fun. I like the embroidery on their sleeves. It's great. And so we have him challenging Xie Lian, asking like, why did you do this? Like, and I like the little flashback picture where you see Lan Chuan in the gold, like with the little pony and the thing, giving it to the kid, saying, well, we got along with Shanla. What was going on? I thought we were really good friends with them. Why did it turn out this way? And of course, at this point, Xie Lian can't tell him that there was a conspiracy that he didn't know about. Like, Xie Lian can't reveal that. So, of course, Xie Lian's like, I can't really tell you the reasons why. And I like that when we go back and see Lan Chuan's eyes here, there's like little glimmers of tears, and there's like bags under his eyes where he's like, my conscience is clean, but I don't understand. What kind of explanation can you give? And Xie Lian's like, I don't have one to give you. There's not one that you'd understand. And of course, Lan Chuan gets very aggravated by that because he's like, oh, you think I can't handle the truth? And gets all huffy. And I like the way that Star Ember not only draws his battle stance, but draws his eyes glowing like a tiger's. They're fiery and orange. It's very cool. I like the pose. I like the stance. I like the mystical wind around his sword. It looks great. And then Xie Lian, I like the detail on his sword that he picks up. I like the detail with Feng Xin and him drawing it. Right? Isn't that Feng Xin? I feel like Feng Xin's maybe a little bit broader than that sword. Whatever the case may be, I like the detail on the hilt of that sword and Xie Lian drawing it. I like that San Long is in the background there being like, no. I like this. Hua Cheng is in the background going, am I going to let Gege fight this brat and waste his time and all of our time? No. It's great. And so then we see Xie Lian. I love the figure work of Xie Lian rushing towards Lan Zhanchu. The action of that shot, the movement, all of the ruffles of all of the robes. It's beautiful. His hair, those big doughy eyes, and Lan Zhanchu like with the crackles of lightning ready to strike. But nope, we're not having it because I love that San Long turns him into a Daruma doll. And I said this in the Discord, and I will say it here. I want the little Daruma doll of Qi-Rong from the last couple chapters. I want a Qi-Rong little Daruma doll. I want it so badly. This little one of Lan Zhanchu has made me realize I want it, because look how angry he is. He's just like, and I just imagine Qi-Rong just like with the tongue out, like, it'd just be so funny. I need a Lan Zhanchu and a Qi-Rong Daruma doll, please. I'm not asking for much. I also love that Hua Cheng says this guy looks stupid in every shape. Such a kid, he just flicks it like to make him roll around. And I love that Xie Lian's like, San Long, like I really didn't want to hurt him like this. And he's like, oh, don't worry, I just quieted him down. He needs to learn a lesson. And the lesson is, don't touch my gege. That's the lesson that you need to learn. But yeah, I thought we were just getting in this chapter. For some reason, my memory, I'm like, oh, we're just going to get Lan Zhanchu versus Xie Lian and Hua Cheng. No big deal. Maybe we'll start going towards the cave. No big deal. No, we're already freaking there. We're already at Qi-Rong. And I was like, ah! And so the ghost looks I love that he's like, so long. Like the ghost looks that he and Xie Lian don. He's like, I told you he has bad taste. This is what his ghosts look like. It's so creepy. I also didn't imagine their whole hair being the flame. I imagined them having like a little ghost flame on top of their heads, like a sim, like leading them around. But no, instead it's like the whole head is just a flame. I was not expecting that. It's great. And then of course Xie Lian's like, oh, why are we disguised as this? And he's like, yeah, we can't let him see us in person. He'll freak out. And I like the little chippy version of Xie Lian being like, oh, why do I look like this? But in the actual story, Xie Lian and Hua Cheng could only see each other looking like the ghost, but to themselves, they didn't actually look like it. It was just like a little camouflage, a veil over them, which is interesting. But yeah, so then we go see the people being taken prisoner to be fed to Qi-Rong, and we get Goozy. I forgot we got Goozy this early. I was like, oh my god, yes, Goozy's in line with his dad. I also love that we see basically what Hua Cheng is going to look like for the next, like, 20,000 chapters after this. But little Goozy, look how cute he is with his little snot nose. Like, he's perfect for Qi-Rong. He's got a little snot nose, and he looks like a little crummy kid. He's so freaking cute. And I love that the whole time, like, the moment we got the black text box with Qi-Rong talking, I was like, mwah, mwah. It was just like all the language. She's like, Pei Ming, what a womanizer. He ought to be cut to pieces, hung out in front of the temple, and fed to the dogs. Like, just, I'm so ready for Qi-Rong in this. I'm so ready. But just, I forgot how much he hates Pei Ming. And because him and Shanji are besties. We'll talk about that in a second. And then there is the lair. It's all grandiose because Star Ember has to make everything grandiose. Star Ember doesn't know the meaning of the word restraint. Everything is so, like just larger than life and huge. Like, the cauldron is enormous. And then there's, like, all the ghost flames and all the people lined up to get put into the cauldron to be made into food that's getting carried to Qi-Rong. It's a lot more grandiose than I expected it to be drawn. I was thinking more like a cozy cave with, like, a dining room table that's big and matte. And he has, like, all the gold and stuff to try to make it look nicer than it actually is. And then there's, like, a cauldron where he's roasting people. I expected that, but I did not expect it to be as, like, huge and magnificent as it is here. It definitely lives up to the name of a savage ghost lair, but it wasn't as big. It was bigger than what I expected, right? And then there he is. I love the green robes. I love the green robes. I love he has this, like, Flavor Flav medallion hanging over the front of him because of course he does. And his hair is very much like Xie Lian's. He has the mask on so we can't see what he looks like, but he looks like Xie Lian. Like, the face shape, the hair is very similar to Xie Lian, except his skin is more ghostly and he has the pointy teeth as he's eating the bones. Otherwise, he looks exactly like I imagined him, and starring for making him look even pretty then. I also like the design of the ghosts. And so these ghosts have the little green flames over them, like the little sim flames, like I imagined. So they look more like what I was thinking of with the little ghost flames on top of their heads. But they have the little masks over their face, and they actually look kind of like creepy cute. I like the way that they have like these big chibi, like chibified eyes and like the little, and the mouths, and they almost look like kind of cutesy monstrous. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's nightmarishly cute. It's just, it's very interesting. And then like they're holding like one has like a bowl of eyeballs and soup, and one has like a hand that's been roasted with tomatoes by it. Like, why not? But yes, we see Qi with his foot up over the statue of Xie Lian that's kneeling in front of him. Yes, I love his fingernails are painted green. Like Hua Cheng's are painted black. His are painted green. I'm like, is Heshan's gonna be painted black too? Probably. Bai WuXiang has like white nails because they're crazy. Like, yeah, I love it. And of course, I also forgot that we were talking about how that he was trying to stir up trouble by getting Qi to fight Pei Ming by stirring up all these rumors, which is hilarious. One, because we've encountered all these characters and we've been traveling with them the last novel, and then two, because now that we know Qi Ying's character, it's like, would Qi Ying even pursue Pei Ming? Probably not. He probably wouldn't even care. So that's kind of hilarious. I love that. And then we see, yep, Xie Lian's head ducking. Again, the manhwa is very much a compliment to the novel. So if you've not read the novel, you're not going to understand everything that's happening in the manhwa. Because, like, the statue of Xie Lian, like, looking at it now, I know it's Xie Lian as the statue, but it's never pointed out that it's Xie Lian. And Xie Lian in this panel doesn't exactly acknowledge it either. So if you hadn't read the novel, you might be confused. Also, by this point, we've skipped ahead a little bit, and Hua Cheng and Xie Lian have gotten out of their ghost disguises and are dressed as peasants. I like Xie Lian has a little bamboo hat. Hua Cheng looks like Rambo with the sleeveless tunic. It's great. But yeah, again, if you hadn't read the novel, you might be a little bit lost. But Xie Lian realizing, oh, that Qi, he didn't change his name. Huh. And then he looks over, and yeah, Sanlong looks very upset. He is not having it that Qi has his feet pushed up on the statue of Xie Lian. No, Hua Cheng had about a freak out when Mu Qing and Feng Xin were trying to touch the statue of Xie Lian in his little grotto. Of course he's mad that Qi has the statue and is putting his feet up on it. That part makes a lot more sense now, which is hilarious. And then poor Guzi gets grabbed by the ghost saying, oh, a young one. And he's like, oh, Dad, no. And then we see the dad go after little Gu. Which Gu? Little Gu. Qi and little Gu. Oh, my God, I can't. Also, yes, seeing this man's face now with the bandana and the green robes, Qi going to fit right in, taking over his body. I can already tell. So we better savor him in looking like he does now and in the flashbacks, because after that, he's going to be stuck in this man's body for like primarily most of the rest of the series. But yeah. And then yeah, so that's where the chapter ended off yet with Guzi getting taken. As if we should be surprised. So yeah, I do have some comments before we start with this set of chapters. We're doing chapters 180 through 181, pages 97 to 138 tonight. I did love the manhwa a lot. I am so happy that Qi is in this with us. I knew that at this point when Qi became the Daruma doll and was taken away, I'm like, well, he's out of the story for a long time, if not the rest of the story now. So getting him in the manhwa is going to be a nice little bi-weekly dose of Qi that I'm sure we're going to need on top of all the chaos. So, yay. But in any case, I have some comments before we start. Sarah Linda talked about the pairing of Pei Ming and the Rainmaster being like a kind of like the parody of She's All That. And if you don't know what She's All That is, it's a movie that came out in America in the 90s. And it's basically about a girl who's actually beautiful, but she like wears glasses and has like pink covered overalls and all this. And there's a bet made to see if the local jock, the womanizer, will like end up dating her, and they end up falling in love and whatnot. So we were making fun of that and imagining Pei Ming as Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character and the Rainmaster as Rachel Lee Cook's character. But then I imagined Xie Wudu as like the guy with the turtleneck making the bets. I'm also maybe meshing it with Not Another Teen Movie, but it was really, really funny. And then Pei Ming, interestingly enough, has been associated with two women who have taken their lives. Sadly, Shan Ji, who killed herself after Pei Ming neglected her. And then we have the Rainmaster who slit her throat after Pei Ming and them were coming after her kingdom. So that's really interesting. But they both have different thoughts about Pei Ming. It's like Shan Ji blames Pei Ming for her plight and the reason she took her life. And Rainmaster Yushi, she doesn't really blame him for anything. She's like, no, I chose to do this, so it's fine. And it's just funny how Pei Ming can't handle it, right? And so then I like the idea of Xie Lian on the ox. I like Sarah Linda pointing out that Xie Lian on the ox with Hua Cheng, they've naturally grown more comfortable towards each other, and that slow intimacy of them getting closer and closer, it's really nice. I like that physicality and how subtly it's gotten more and more apparent as the story has gone on. Samantha Coco pointed out this, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize this, but Samantha Coco pointed out that Hua Cheng isn't sure who the person that Xie Lian trusts the most is in chapter 167. That he's jealous because he doesn't realize that the person Xie Lian trusts the most is him. And I'm like, what a blockhead. I'm like, Xie Lian finally figured out. So here's the thing. Xie Lian has figured out who Hua Cheng loves the most, that it's him. He finally figured that out since volume 3. And now we have Hua Cheng who isn't sure who Xie Lian trusts the most. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? So at some point, Xie Lian is going to have to tell Hua Cheng, like, just like I realized you were talking about me, I've been talking about you. And then they need to make out and just get it over with. So, but that's great. I'm glad you pointed that out because what a pair of dummies. I wasn't quite sure on that. So thank you. SQQLBH talked about Banyu is a savage. I forgot Banyu was a savage ghost. I think because Pei Ming's been gaslighting her into thinking she's just a little dummy. But I forgot that. So yeah, the fact that she can stand up to Shan Ji makes perfect sense. They're both savages, but Banyu's just a wee bit stronger. I love that. I think that's amazing. And so it makes perfect sense. The melon seeds. SQQLBH314 pointed out that, yeah, Xie Lian, it's funny that they're munching on those, but that's literally the first food source that Pei Su could have eaten since they've been down in the caverns. And I was like, yes. We're over here laughing at the folly of all this and Pei Su's starving. So hopefully they got some melon seeds to him after that joke was done with. And then the origin of the Ghost King, about knowing his manhood. SQLBH314 was like, so what does that say about the black water? And I was like, does it say that it's small or does it say that it's big? We can debate on that. What does that mean about Hua Cheng Bai WuXiang, though? We can debate on that. I don't know. I just thought that was really funny. And then the four tragedies the four tales are all tragedies. We have the general who was loyal and surrendered and suppressed his rebellion, and he was killed by his own monarch for it. He saved his kingdom and was killed for it. We have Yushi, who basically saved her entire kingdom as well and was also killed for it. We have Xie Lian, who was the prince who tried to save the world and was only made a mockery for it. And then we have the boy who poured wine, who tried to help others only to realize that he wasn't even supposed to be able to help at all. So yeah, a lot of tragedy with the four tales. Interesting indeed. Anime Annie pointed out that technically, I was saying a few chapters ago, that Qirong wasn't really connected to the other three tales, but Anime Annie pointed out that technically Qirong did take the farmers of Yushi, who is the princess who slit her throat, so technically there is a connection there. So good to know. And then Yushi, it's important that Yushi is someone that Xie Lian remembers, because Xie Lian's memory has been very spotty this entire series. The fact that he remembers Yushi is pretty big. She's had such a significant impact to him. And I would say that Xie Lian tends to forget what he calls to Hua Cheng the small failures. Like all the stuff with Shanla and Bai WuXiang and Yushi, the stuff that like was ground changing in Xie Lian's entire existence, he seems to remember fairly well. But the stuff of like what came afterwards, like with his failures and wandering around for 800 years, he seems to like want to forget that. And you can't really blame him because it seems like it was just a really bad time. So there's that. But yeah, y'all, only two chapters, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I know how this story is. I did 2 chapters like a few weeks ago and got nearly 2 hours out of it. So what are we to do? What are we to do? But yeah, I'm really excited. I hope we get some pictures. If not, we'll use Manhua pictures, so that'll be fine. But I don't know. So we have Long Ying on a spike, and we think it might be Bai WuXiang. So we need to know what's happening. So I have no clue what's going to happen, y'all. But thanks for watching with me. We'll just see what fresh goodies this set of chapters brings. But we're going to start chapters 180 to 181 of Heaven Official's Blessing. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Chapter 180, from the sealed kiln, one supreme shall emerge. His head was dropped to the side as if he had lost consciousness. When Xie Lian saw it was Long Ying, he moved to save him, but quickly stopped in his step, his mind coming around. There was clearly no one else but White No-Face here earlier, so why would Long Ying suddenly appear? Seeing that pure and holy statue of the God-pleasing crown prince was corrupted by dripping blood, Hua Cheng was obviously enraged, his expression radiating dark fury, and the scimitar of Ming exuded a chilling aura. "Get the hell down," he said. As expected, Long Ying's drooping head righted itself. Oh no! Blinking eyes open, and slowly pulled himself down from the sword, dropping to the ground. Earlier, when White No-Face blew up that wave of silver butterflies that had surrounded to attack him, he used that moment of blinding silver light to hide himself under the veil of the divine statue, and transformed into the appearance of Long Ying. Since he could disguise himself as Long Ying, it meant he must have seen Long Ying somewhere before. "Where's the real Long Ying?" Xie Lian demanded. "Your Highness." "Oh, come on now. Maybe there was never a real Long Ying. Oh, no. No, if since the beginning Long Ying had never existed, and it was only White No-Face in his unrecovered form, then everything could be easy to explain. But Xie Lian remembered the little girl Zhao Ying who died on Mount Yuzhun. He would rather this explanation be illogical. He then swiftly thought of another possibility and said slowly, or perhaps he devoured Long Ying. Hearing this, the Long Ying before them started growing taller, his body pulling upwards, the bandages on his face unwrapping and shredding, revealing the mask inside. He slightly lifted his head, seeming to be smiling. "Oh, you guessed right." "Oh my God, that was it indeed! Oh no!" White No-Face was certainly pulverized and dispersed by Junwu. However, he clung on and left a wisp of a broken soul drifting in the mortal realm. Who knows how long he drifted? Who knows when it happened? But he found Long Ying, who possessed the same ghost body. He must have used some way to seduce or deceive Long Ying into making Long Ying agree to host him on his own body. Otherwise, by his remaining weak soul, he might not have had the ability to devour Long Ying. He stayed glued on Long Ying's body and slowly recovered, and the end result what was before Xie Lian and Hua Cheng now, ghost devouring ghost. White No-Face ate the host Long Ying. Just as how he, Heshan, devoured the Reverend of Empty Words, Long Ying ironically became his slave. Oh my God. It only took a few words before Long Ying had completely transformed into the appearance of the White No-Face. Hua Cheng eyed him. Why would Long Ying agree to let you borrow his spirit body? A request like this was no different than a stranger asking, "Please open your front doors and let me in to live in your house and eat your food." Long Ying was still a ghost who lived for hundreds of years after all. And while he was timid and hesitant, he shouldn't be this foolish. The White No-Face replied warmly, "I can of course answer your question, but are you sure the one next to you would want me to say it here?" Hua Cheng looked to his side. Xie Lian's expression was slightly strange, and didn't notice his gaze at all. White No-Face then said, "Surname Long, Yongen, the human face disease." Why did he agree to let me eat him? Can you not guess why? Xie Lian's face was instantly paled by a shade. The veins on the back of his hands popped and he slashed with his sword, shouting, "Shut up!" The white no-face sidestepped and avoided the strike, but clang! The attack sliced through the sword, gripped in his hands of his own divine statue. Now he'd done it. The god-pleasing crown prince statue wielded a broken sword, and the statue itself became a ruined artifact. Xie Lian instantly snapped out of it like he was suddenly drenched by a bucket of cold water. It was as if the wraith butterflies were outraged and they swarmed over. White No-Face laughed emotionlessly, casual and at ease, and using his sleeve to cover his face, he no longer persisted and swiftly disappeared into the darkness. Xie Lian stared at the broken stone sword on the ground and muttered to Hua Cheng, "I'm sorry." However, Hua Cheng said, "Geki, don't be silly. Why apologize to me? He's gone. Now what?" Xie Lian pulled himself together and somewhat replied, "Did he flee? We can't let him enter the kiln." The two chased out of the cave of 10,000 gods and hiked onto the snowy mountain once more. Right as they came out, they could feel the earth quake and the mountain shake. They looked upwards and waves of avalanche were crashing down. Compared to the one they experienced before, this roaring avalanche was only bigger, not smaller. It was as if something buried under the heavy snow was awakened and was roaring. "Can we still make it up there?" Xie Lian wondered. Hua Cheng clutched his hand firmly and said, "We can if you follow me! Oh my god!" The two went up against the crashing current of ice and snow. Sure enough, while it was difficult and extremely dangerous, and every step they took had to take 3 back, they still avoided most of the snow and rubble flow and the countless pits, creating a path up the mountain from their tireless charging. Finally, they hiked to the highest point. Ice sealed the mountaintop, so thick who knows how deep it was, and how many layers were frozen beneath. Xie Lian felt if he tried going even a bit faster, he would slip. But Hua Cheng held his hand and moved forward with steady steps, completely unafraid. The two came to the mouth of the volcano, and that opening looked like a giant mouth shouting to the heavens, exceedingly impressive. Looking downwards, it was complete darkness below. Maybe it was his imagination, but in the deepest recesses there seemed to be a terrifying red light flashing in intervals, sometimes there, sometimes not. Xie Lian felt slight panic for some reason, and he held down the bamboo hat on his head, making sure it didn't get blown away by the snowy winds. Did he go in already? Hua Cheng only took a glance before his expression turned grim. Yes. Well, how do you know? The kiln is closing. Xie Lian was taken aback and instantly felt caught off guard. Well, what's going on? Why is it closing so soon? Don't there need to be at least several ghosts inside before the slaughtering can begin? That's the usual case, Hua Cheng said. However, if the kiln believes the entrant has extremely high potential of breaking through, then as long as the ghost makes the mountain sealing request, it will close. After a pause, he added, "That's what I did back then." So is he a supreme or not? What will happen if a supreme ghost king enters the kiln again? It's the same thing that would happen as to ascend heavenly officials who has gone through another heavenly calamity. Which meant if he was already strong, he would become even stronger. If they allowed White No-Face to cross this obstacle, then the consequences would be unimaginable. And then after he exited the mountain as the supreme, the first one he would seek would surely be Xie Lian. Eyeing that bottomless, infinite abyss for a while, Xie Lian said slowly, "So long. I might need to go down there to resolve things." "Go, I'll come with you," Hua Cheng replied quietly. Xie Lian looked up and gazed at him. Hua Cheng looked up too and met his eyes, cocking an eyebrow, and he smirked. "It's just going down to kill an eyesore and then breaking through the kiln again, that's all. It's not like it's anything hard." What, like Legally Blonde? Like what, it's hard? Seeing him so relaxed, Xie Lian's tensed emotions seemed to have loosened some too, and he smiled. An instant later, Hua Cheng said, "However, there is one thing." He tilted his head, and one of Hua Cheng's arms suddenly snaked around his waist and brought him into his arms. The other hand lifted his chin gently, and then his lips were enveloped. Oh, you shut up! Oh my god! What? They kissed and embraced for a long time in the snowstorm before their lips parted slowly. Xie Lian was dazed for a good moment before he jolted, came to, and became flustered, widening his eyes. What's this all of a sudden? Oh my god! Although it wasn't the first time they'd done something like this. Before, they'd always used grand and dignified reasons like lending spiritual powers and transferring air and accident to justify their actions. Now that some things had come out into the open, these excuses were suddenly exposed to be falsehoods, and the meaning of those actions became much more significant. He nearly didn't know where to put his hands, to hold on to Hua Cheng's arms or push against Hua Cheng's chest. Should he hold back or block Hua Cheng's face? Oh my god! Okay. Next to his ear, Hua Cheng seemed to have puffed breath and whispered, "I'll lend a bit of spiritual power to your highness in case of emergency. Will you accept it?" Oh, shut up! You know what you're doing! Xie Lian unconsciously swallowed and started, "Oh, this is a bit? It seems too much. I haven't paid you back for all the times before." "It's not much. There's no rush. Take your time to pay back. The account will clear one day." Oh, you smooth son of a bitch! Oh my god! Xie Lian, of course. And he was about to run away when Hua Cheng pulled him to a stop, pointing out, "Your Highness, where are you running to? You're going in the wrong direction." Only then did Xie Lian discover he was running back the way he came and immediately turned back around, even slipping on the ice once. He quickly pressed down his bamboo hat. "No, I'm just a little cold. I thought I'd jog around a bit to warm up." Oh. He put the bamboo hat on, then carried it on his back to carry, and then wore it again. Finally, he held on to Hua Cheng's hand, gripping it tightly. The two stood side by side and watched the immense abyss below. Hua Cheng's voice was casual. "After all this is resolved, I'll show Gege my proudest sculpted statue." "Okay," Xie Lian replied. And then the two jumped down together. I like that he's saying that, like, being like, after this is all over, we're both going to make this out of this because I have to show you something afterwards. The gusts of wild winds shaved past his ears, a force so strong it was like crashing waves. But their hands weren't separated by the power. Instead, they held on even harder. Yet unexpectedly, halfway in the air, Xie Lian's grip turned empty. It wasn't that his hand slipped or Hua Cheng let go. The hand that held his palm disappeared all of a sudden, no more substance. Xie Lian's heart lurched and he shouted, "So long!" He was falling rapidly, and his cry a moment ago was already over 10 miles above his head. His voice sounding unreal. It was a long time before Xie Lian finally landed steadily. He immediately rose to his feet and called out, "So long!" There was no answer. Only a hollow echo told him that what an immense empty space he was currently standing in. It was darkness all around except for above, and Xie Lian looked up. Above there was a snowy white sky, and it was gradually shrinking. That must be the mouth of the kiln slowly closing. But where did Hua Cheng go? There was a crackle and a whoosh, and Xie Lian lit up a palm torch, hoping to illuminate and see what things were like down here. But the darkness was immeasurably deep, and this little bit of flame couldn't show anything, the firelight itself seeming to be coldly absorbed by the dark void. Moreover, he accidentally didn't control his powers well, and the flame erupted a little too high and almost burned his own head, so he quickly tossed the fire onto the ground. Coincidentally, that firelight brightened the back of a faint white silhouette not far away. Xie Lian was instantly alarmed. "Who is it?" The white silhouette turned around and answered quietly, "You know who I am." Although he answered, the muscle on that man's face did not move an inch. Naturally, since it wasn't the face of a man, but that of a half-crying, half-smiling mask. Xie Lian blurted, "So long!" Even though he would get uncontrollable chills and terror when he saw this face, this call wasn't because he was scared, but because he was worried. Of course, there was no one who answered, and that crying, smiling mask had come closer by another step. There's no need to yell anymore. The kiln is now sealed shut. There's only you and me in here, no third person. Xie Lian looked up again. Earlier, there was still a small, snowy white sliver of sky, but now that little bit of light was completely swallowed by the darkness around them, which meant the kiln truly had sealed the mountain. Xie Lian had never expected things to turn out like this. Him and White No-Face, the two of them locked inside the kiln. Just the two of them? Why two? Xie Lian gripped Fang Shen and pointed the sword at him. "What's going on here? Are you meddling again? Where is he? Where is he right now?" The White No-Face clamped the edge of the sword with 2 fingers, and the other hand flicked upon the blade, and clung came out clear and crisp. "He's gone." Xie Lian watched this move of his, and his eyes turned cold. "Explain yourself clearly. What do you mean, gone?" "He doesn't want to follow you anymore. He left, dead. What do you think?" the White No-Face said. Xie Lian first felt his heart drop, then immediately after a violent rage rolled up, he struck. "Stop your nonsense!" White No-Face once again caught the blade effortlessly. Fine, I was talking nonsense. Don't worry, I already sent him outside the kiln, so even if he wants to rush over now, it'd be too late. Xie Lian really didn't mind whether Hua Cheng could make it, as long as he was okay. And he quietly sighed a breath of relief. White No-Face continued, but it's probably for the best that he doesn't come in. Otherwise, even if he doesn't think so now, later when he sees the state of you, who knows if he'll still want to be with you. Oh, Xie Lian couldn't stand him anymore and swung his sword again, yelling, "Shut up, I've had enough of you! What do you want? Just what do you want? How long are you going to keep clinging to me?" The White No-Face easily dodged every single one of his strikes, and Xie Lian cried in rage, "Why haven't you died? Why did you come to the kiln?" "Because of you," White No-Face replied. Xie Lian's movement faltered and he huffed a breath. "What do you mean?" White No-Face answered languidly, "Because you've come. So I've come too." Hearing an answer like this, Xie Lian's face was going twisted. However, no matter how enraged he was, how strong his murderous intent, it was as if the White No-Face could forever predict what his next strike would be and avoided each attack by mere millimeters. The more Xie Lian struck, the more he understood a cruel fact: he couldn't win. That's right. Like he could read his mind, the White No-Face says, "You can't win." The moment those words left his lips, a blade was pierced through Xie Lian's wrist. Oh, excruciating pain spread throughout his body, and Xie Lian involuntarily loosened the grip of the sword. The next second, his hair was grabbed, and he was forcibly yanked down and bashed into the ground. His ears were ringing, his nose and mouths were filled with the astringence of blood, and his head concussed. It was a while later before Xie Lian felt a hand pull his head from the shattered ground, and a voice came from above, so sad, so pitiful. Xie Lian choked out a mouthful of blood. The White No-Face said, "Every time I meet your highness, you always look like this. It makes one ache, it makes one excited." Xie Lian bit back another mouthful of blood, refusing to let it be coughed out, and he croaked, "Don't be so pleased. I might not be able to win against you now, but someone can. Even if you emerge from the kiln, Jun Wu can very well kill you again. Besides, there's still Hua Cheng." Yet unexpectedly, White No-Face replied, "Who says the one who will emerge from the kiln will be me?" Hearing this, Xie Lian was taken aback. Not him. Who else could it be if it was not him? White No-Face lifted his face to look into his eyes and said warmly, "Your Highness, I think you might have misunderstood. There will certainly be a supreme who will emerge from this kiln, but it won't be me. It will be you." Xie Lian was shaken to the core. "What did you say?" "I'm not." Before he even finished, he understood. Instantly, his body was covered in cold sweat from the shock. White No-Face said, "Oh, that's right. That's exactly it. Congratulations. You finally understand my real objective. Isn't this your favorite third path?" Currently in the kiln, there was only one supreme and one god. And by the looks of things, there were only two paths to take. Either the White No-Face killed him and emerged from the kiln, or the two were trapped within the kiln forever, escaping an erstwhile dream. But there was a third path. If Xie Lian was to kill himself right now and become a ghost and kill the White No-Face, then he could become a supreme and break through the kiln. Well, what? No! No! Xie Lian stepped out of his shock. Don't even think about it. Are you crazy? Just what do you want? Why must you do this? Have me become a supreme? I'm not as crazy as you. Even if you want to kill me, there's no way I can defeat you. The kiln won't recognize such a supreme. It was the honest truth. To excel as a person didn't mean one could excel as a god, and to be able to become a god didn't mean one could become a ghost. But the White No-Face said, "Really? Don't be so sure." Then his other hand reached out. With the firelight not too far away, Xie Lian could see a mask had appeared on the other hand. The exact same one as the one on White No-Face's face. "Do you remember this crying, smiling mask?" White No-Face said. "It suits you." Xie Lian's eyes bulged, and terror was like a tide of insects, densed and packed as they crawled into his mind. He forced out weakly, "Take it away! Take it away! Take it away!" White No-Face started laughing. "It seems like your Highness's memory isn't that great. If that's the case, let me help you remember. What? Then, without giving him a chance to protest, the tragically pale, crying pale, crying, smiling mask melted with the infinite darkness as it was pressed heavily onto Xie Lian's face. What? What is happening? Book 3 end. What? Oh my gosh! Book 4. The white clothed calamity. Oh my god. MXTX author's note. This book is set in the past timeline. It's about the first banishment after the fall of Shanla. It follows after book 2. Not too long. Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay! Oh my god, it's right after the first flashback we got of him back in volume 3. You shut the frick up. You shut up. No. Oh my god, no. Or I guess it'd be volume 2. Oh my god. I wanted White Calamity secrets, and we're getting White Calamity secrets! Okay, I'm done freaking out. We have one more chapter. Chapter 181. Lantern Night, a penny for a wandering soul. Xie Lian jolted awake in horror. His body was drenched in cold sweat from the scare, and he shot up from his rest, burying his face in his hands. The reason he awoke in shock was because of a dream. Within the dream, both his father and mother had committed suicide and had hung themselves. He saw it, but there was no joy or grief, no tears to flow, and he woodenly prepared himself another white silk band. Just as he was sticking his head into the knot, he saw below him there was a white-clad man, wearing a smiling mask, jeering at him. His heart jolted, the knot tightened, and a crushing suffocation came, and then he woke up. Oh my god, he was killing himself. It was already daylight outside the window, and from the exterior came a voice. In his dream he was. Oh my god. Your Highness, are you awake? Xie Lian answered offhandedly, I'm awake! It was only after having violently panted for a good while he realized he wasn't sitting on the futon. Instead, it was a sheet of straw mat under his body. Although it was layered with many batches of hay, extraordinarily soft, to him it still wasn't quite comfortable. Even now, he still wasn't used to such simple and crude bedding. The one who called for him just now was Feng Xin. He went out early in the morning, and he'd brought back food, and was urging Xie Lian from the outside to go take his meal. Xie Lian acknowledged him and crawled up. That sense of suffocation in the dream was too real, and his hand unconsciously felt his neck. He only wanted to verify whether there really was a strangulation mark left behind by a knotted white silk band. Yet unexpectedly he actually felt something. Xie Lian was shaken at first, and he rushed to grab a mirror tossed on the ground not far away. When he looked at the reflection, he realized it was the band of a black collar encircling his neck, and he finally calmed and remembered everything. It was a cursed shackle. Xie Lian's fingers probed at it. Once banished to become immortal, other than aging slower than normal humans, there weren't many privileges. However, when Junwu first fabricated Xie Lian's cursed shackle, he still showed some mercy and left room for accommodations. While this cursed shackle locked away his spiritual powers, it also sealed his age and flesh body at the same time, allowing him to neither age nor die. Furthermore, Junwu told him, if you manage to ascend again, then everything in your previous life will be forgiven and this thing will be removed. But that's not what happened, But to wear such a thing on one's body was no different than a criminal whose face was branded as a sinner, no doubt a bone-deep humiliation. Having thought this, Xie Lian reached out to the side and grabbed a white silk band, ready to pull it over his head. At the moment he raised his hand, he suddenly recalled that terrifying feeling of his neck slowly being strangled in his dream. And he hesitated. However, in the end, he still pulled it out and wrapped it thoroughly around his neck and the bottom half of his face before going out. Feng Xin and Muqing were already waiting for him outside. Feng Xin had brought back both steaming hot buns, and Muqing was slowly munching at them. Feng Xin passed 2 over to Xie Lian, but when Xie Lian saw those dull and dry, crude buns, he lost his appetite. He shook his head, refusing them. Your Highness, you have to eat something in the morning. We have to work afterwards, and it's not labor that can be done by just sitting around, Feng Xin said. Muqing didn't even bother looking up. Yeah, if you don't eat this, there's nothing else to eat. You can faint again, but you have to eat this in the end. Function glared at him. Watch your tone. Xie Lian had only ascended for a few years, but had long forgotten what it was like to need to eat. A few days ago, he nearly fainted, and it was only after that did he realize it was because he hadn't had anything to eat for several days. This was the incident WuXiang was referring to. Sitting on the edge, Xie Lian didn't want those two to start fighting so early in the morning, so he changed the subject immediately. Let's go. We don't even know if we'll find work today. Xie Lian of the past was of a noble and prestigious status, and since he possessed a celestial body, unneeding of mortal sustenance, naturally there was no need to worry over making a living. However, the him of now, while he was still a crown prince, the kingdom of Shanla was already no more. While he was still a god, he had long since been banished. Now that he was basically no different than a mortal, he needed to concern himself with how to live out his days. The profession of cultivators was, of course, catching ghosts and performing services, but it wasn't like there were demons and monsters to be caught or rituals to be performed every day, so majority of the time they still needed to find some casual temporary work, like helping with transporting goods or some manual labor. But even such small errand jobs might not be so easily grabbed. Now there were far too many impoverished civilians who were displaced. When these paupers saw there was work, they didn't even need payment. With just a bun and half a bowl of rice, they'd be willing to labor, swarming up to fight for the work, so how could Xie Lian and company possibly compete? Even if they managed to grab something after Xie Lian deliberated, he might still think that others needed the work more. And sure enough, after walking the streets for a good while, they still found nothing. Can we not find something more stable and respectable to do? WuXiang grumbled. Rubbish. If it existed, we would have long since gotten it, Function said. Don't respectable jobs need to have faces shown? Who doesn't recognize His Highness's face? If he was recognized, how would work remain stable? Oh, okay. WuXiang stopped talking. Xie Lian, on the other hand, wrapped the white bandage covering the lower half of his face tighter. Indeed, if anyone was to recognize who he was, they would either flee or they'd be beaten and chased away. And for example, if they were to enlist for a security guard job, who would possibly be comfortable enough to hire someone with an unknown background, a security guard who doesn't even show his face? They couldn't go and take up assassination jobs either, so choices were very limited. It was impossible for gods to worry over hunger. However, mortals needed to eat. Ever since Xie Lian was young, he had never had to consider these kind of affairs, and this was truly the first time in decades that this problem gripped him. However, if gods didn't even know what starvation felt like, how could they possibly understand the feelings of a starving worshiper? How could they possibly empathize? At this point, he could only take this experience as a form of training. Ah, okay, all right. Just then, there was a large cacophony of gongs and drums from not far in the distance, and a large crowd gathered to see what was happening. The three followed the flow and went up to watch, and there were a few martial artists and clowns hollering with all their might within the crowd. It was a street busker. WuXiang tried suggesting again, if all fails, why don't we go busk? Xie Lian was also considering the same thing, but before he responded, Function was already replying as he watched. What foolishness are you spouting? His Highness's body is worth 1,000 gold. How can he do something like that? WuXiang rolled his eyes. We've carried bricks already. How is busking any different? Carrying bricks is feeding ourselves with our own physical strength, Function said. Busking is to entertain the masses, to amuse them by making fools of ourselves, so of course it's different. Then one of the clowns who was hopping about tripped and fell. The crowd roared with laughter as he pulled himself up and bent at the waist to bow, picking up some scattered coins tossed to the ground. Seeing this, a deep sense of rejection rolled up in Xie Lian's mind, and he shook his head forcefully, striking out busking as a viable path of employment. For now, right? When WuXiang saw, he said, fine, then let's start pawning stuff. We've already pawned a lot of stuff, Function said. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made it until now. The rest can't be pawned. Suddenly, behind the crowd came waves of surprised shouts. Someone shouted, the soldiers are here! The soldiers are here! Hearing the soldiers had come, the bustling crowd watching the show broke up. Soon after, a band of soldiers strutted down the street with weapons in their hands, donned in shiny new armor, their air impressive. They were interrogating anybody who appeared suspicious. The three hid in the crowd and heard people beside them talk. Who are they trying to catch? Don't worry, they're not here to arrest us. I heard they're trying to capture the Shanla royals who escaped. Apparently someone saw suspicious characters around here, so the city's been really strict with searches lately. For real? Oh my goodness, have they actually fled to this place? The three exchanged looks. Let's hurry back and see. The other two nodded. They silently left the crowd separately, and it was only after having walked for a while without garnering attention they met up and dashed away. They ran up to a desolate piece of woods up on a small mountain, and from afar Xie Lian could see a thick column of smoke coming from within the woods. His heart dropped heavily. Could the young soldiers have already discovered this place and set fires to kill? They ran closer, and there was a little broken cottage hidden in the trees, possibly left behind by some past unknown hunter. Thick smoke was coming from inside the cottage. Xie Lian blurted, "Mother, what's going on? Are you there?" After a shout, a woman emerged in greeting, called out happily, "Oh, my son, you've come!" It was the queen. She was dressed plainly and had thinned quite a bit, slightly different than her affluent lady appearance of the past. Seeing that his mother was fine, her face full of delight, obviously unbothered, Xie Lian relaxed but quickly asked, "What was the smoke?" "Oh, it's not really anything. I just wanted to do a little cooking today." "Oh my God, no! No, it's genetic! No!" Xie Lian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Adult what cooking? Just settle for the food function and WuXiang bring you every day. The smoke is too conspicuous. Where there's smoke, there's people. You'll attract the young and soldiers. We bumped into them in the city earlier. The city will tighten their security. You need to move to a different place again." Feng Shen and WuXiang entered the cottage to put out the smoke. The queen didn't dare to be negligent either, so she went into the back rooms to talk to the king. Feng Shen came out and whispered, "Your Highness, are you not going to see His Majesty?" "No." The two of them, father and son, one was the king of a fallen kingdom, the other was a banished god. Just who was the more pathetic, the more ashamed, really couldn't be compared. If they were to be forced to sit down and face each other, they'd only glare at one another instead of having a heart-to-heart. So if they could avoid seeing one another, it would be for the best. Xie Lian called out, "Mother, why don't you pack up a bit and we'll leave today? We'll come pick you up in the evening. We'll leave for now." "My son, you're leaving just like that? You haven't visited in so many days. Why leave so fast?" "Well, I have to go train." In truth, it was to go find work. Otherwise, they couldn't possibly gather enough sustenance for so many people. "Have you eaten this morning?" Xie Lian shook his head. The three of them were starving by now. "Then your body will break. Fortunately, I stewed a pot of porridge. Come in and grab a bite." Xie Lian wondered inwardly, why was there so much smoke like the palace was on fire if it was just a pot of porridge? The queen turned to Feng Shen and WuXiang. "The two of you children come eat with us too." Feng Shen and WuXiang hadn't expected to receive such treatment at all and tried to decline, but the queen was adamant. So the two could only sit down and timidly at the table, both feeling rather surprised and flattered. However, after the queen brought over the pot, their surprise turned into dread. After returning to the city, WuXiang's stomach was still turning. He said as he stumbled, "I thought that porridge smelled like bran water, but I didn't know it'd taste like it too." Feng Shen gritted his teeth. "Shut up. Don't force people to remember that pot of stuff. The queen is a body of 10,000 gold after all, and had never cooked, so this is already..." WuXiang humphed. "Did I say something wrong? If you didn't think that was bran water, then why don't you go ask the queen to grant you another bowl?" The two were heaving back and forth, and Xie Lian grabbed a hold of both of them, patting their backs. "Oh, stop heaving! Look up ahead, there seems to be some work." Sure enough, when the three stumbled over, there were a couple of ringleaders shouting on the streets looking for hired help. The pay was fairly decent, and there wasn't a limit on the number of hands needed. They would take everyone who would come. So the three quickly signed up, mixing with a group of disheveled, bone-skinny paupers, forming a large band as they came to the muddy, empty field. There was the intention of building a new residence here, so the area was going to be overhauled, beginning with filling the grounds first. The three worked hard, their bodies covered in mud. Feng Shen was hauling the earth as he hugged his stomach, his face green, cursing, "Oh, screw me! I thought that pot of stewed bran water turned into a spirit in my stomach." Xie Lian was carrying a basket full of earth, and he looked back, speaking in a hushed voice. "Can you hang on? Do you want to sit down for a bit on the side?" WuXiang turned to Xie Lian. "Why don't you go rest on the side?" "No, I can still hang on." "Don't be stubborn. If you dirty your clothes, I'm the one who has to wash them. I'd rather do your part of the work." Not far in the distance, someone yelled, "Work hard and don't talk. Don't be lazy. You still want to get paid?" Feng Shen was tenacious and continued to hang on, even hauling twice the amount of mud than before. "It's not like it's a lot of pay. Why make so much of a fuss? Like they're all that." After a grueling day, having fought from high noon to sunset, the work was finally done. Physically, the three weren't completely exhausted. But to have worked so hard for only some meager pay and a bite to eat, their heart was more tired than their body. When they finally gained some free time, they lay down on a field that was slightly more clean to rest. Just then, another group came around, rowdy and noisy. A couple of men were hauling a stone statue as they walked over. What statue is that? Maybe the new divine statue to guard over this place. Xie Lian didn't speak. If this was the past, then the chosen divine statue to guard the land would be his own crown prince statue without question. Now, who knew which god this would be? It was most likely to be Junwu, or perhaps whichever official was newly ascended. After a long pause in the end, Xie Lian couldn't help but wonder just who it was that replaced him. So he forced himself to get up and shuffled close to the crowd to take a look. The stone statue had its back facing, so he couldn't see the face clearly, but it seemed to be kneeling. Now he was even more curious. Which heavenly official's divine statue kneeled? Then he went around the long circle and turned around to look. When he saw, his entire mind went blank. The face of the divine statue was his own. This kneeling statue was settled into the ground, and someone on the side rudely patted its head. It's finally transported. This bastard's pretty heavy. Why'd you haul over a statue like that? It's kind of ugly. Why not bring over Heavenly Marshal Emperor? Or isn't that it? What's his face? It's that one, right? Didn't they say worshipping would bring bad luck? You guys still dare worship him and go out of your way to transport him all the way here? Nah, none of you understand. Worshipping a god of misfortune will certainly bring bad luck, but this statue isn't for worshipping, it's for stepping. If you step on a god of misfortune, doesn't that mean it'll ensure your everlasting good luck? Oh, what a good meaning! Excellent symbolism! Function and WuXiang could also sense something was wrong when they approached. They too fell silent. Function was about to explode, but WuXiang held him back, warning him with his eyes. He said under his breath, "The Crown Prince hasn't even started anything, so what are you going to yell for?" Indeed, Xie Lian was quiet, and Function wasn't sure whether he had other considerations, so he didn't dare move recklessly. He forced himself to swallow his angry words, but his eyes were blazing like flames. Finally, someone grumbled, "Well, isn't this rather inappropriate? He was a god once, His Highness the Crown Prince." "Oh, please, Shanla has fallen, so what, Crown Prince?" "What you said was wrong. Stepping on a god of misfortune isn't anything inappropriate. In fact, he should thank us." And Xie Lian suddenly piped up, "Oh, why should he thank you?" The man explained presumptuously, "Haven't you seen the thresholds of temples? They're trampled by thousands, hundreds of thousands. But does my lord see how many wealthy households are fighting to pay for one of those temple thresholds to be used as their substitutes? It's because every stepped on that threshold would absolve them of their sin, pay a debt, collect a merit. This kneeling statue has the same function. If we step on his head or spit on it, aren't we collecting merits for the Crown Prince, so he should thank us?" Xie Lian couldn't listen anymore. When that man said the word thank, his fist was already raised and he lunged. The crowd instantly exploded. "What are you doing? Fight! Who's causing trouble?" Function already couldn't wait to beat people up, so he cried as he joined the brawl. WuXiang couldn't tell if he joined in himself or he got pulled in. In any case, all three of them started fighting. In the midst of the brawl, there were a number of times when the white bandage on Xie Lian's face was almost yanked off, but thank goodness that didn't happen. The three of them were skilled in martial arts, but the other party had numbers. Plus, WuXiang was holding the other two back, warning them that to kill mortals was to add to their crimes, so the fight ended up being miserably restrained. In the end, while the fight was gratifying, the three of them were still booted out. After walking along the riverside for a while looking unkempt, their steps finally slowed. WuXiang complained angrily, his face black and blue. "We worked hard all day, but in the end we gained nothing, all because of a fight." Function wiped the blood on his lips. "How can you bring up money at a time like this?" "It's precisely because it's a time like this that money has to be brought up," WuXiang countered. "A time like this? What time is it? A time where we're starving? It doesn't matter if you don't want to admit it, but nothing can be done without money. Can you both just suck it up a little bit?" Xie Lian didn't speak. Function spoke. "Well, how do we endure this? He's been made into a kneeling statue for people to step on. You're not the one whose face is being stepped on, so of course you can speak so lightly of it." "Since the war's been lost, it's not the first time something like this has happened," WuXiang said. "And there will surely be more in the future. If he can't learn to get used to it soon, he might as well just die." Function argued in distaste. Get used to it? Get used to what? Being humiliated by others? Get used to mortals stepping on his face? Why does he have to get used to something like that? Xie Lian cried out in irritation. "That's enough. Stop arguing. Is something small like this worth fighting over?" "Let's go. Find a carriage and go pick up my mother and father. We have to leave the city tonight." "All right." The two walked side for a bit when suddenly they noticed that WuXiang didn't follow. WuXiang, Your Highness, I want to talk to you about something. What is it? What's with you now? I already said I won't argue with you anymore. What do you want? I want to leave. Although before he opened his mouth, Xie Lian already had a vague bad premonition. When WuXiang actually said those words out loud, his breath still stopped. What? What did you say? WuXiang straightened his back, his black obsidian eyes unyielding, his demeanor calm. Please permit me to leave. Leave? Function exclaimed. What should His Highness do if you leave? What about the king and queen? WuXiang opened and closed his mouth a couple of times, but in the end he still said, I'm sorry. I can only do so much. No need to explain yourself right now. What the heck do you mean you can only do so much? Function demanded. WuXiang replied, the king and queen are His Highness's parents, and I have my own mother. She is my care too. I can't say I need to go take care of someone else and someone else's parents and neglect my own mother, so I pray Your Highness will understand. I cannot continue to follow by your side. Xie Lian was faint and leaned against a wall. Function questioned coldly, is that the real reason? How come you never mentioned it before? This is one of the reasons, WuXiang said. The other reason I feel is that we've sunken into a dilemma. But as to how to break out of this dilemma, we have very different ideas. Pardon my honesty, but if things keep going like this, nothing will get better even in 1,000,000 years. So our paths have diverged. Function was so angry he started chuckling and nodded, turning to Xie Lian. Your Highness, do you hear that? Do you remember what I first said? If you were ever banished, he'd for sure be the first to break away. Didn't I tell you? WuXiang seemed faintly enraged by his words and said flatly, will you please not force me? I'm only speaking the truth. Everyone has their own views. No one was born destined to be on the righteous path of the mortal realm, the center of the world. Perhaps you enjoy orbiting around another person, but others might not be the same as you. Where did all those concealed, sour words come from? I don't give a damn, Function said. Can't you say plainly that you're turning your back on us? Enough! Hearing Xie Lian voiced up, the two both stopped. He removed his hand from his forehead and turned to WuXiang. He stared at him for a while before speaking. I don't like forcing other people. WuXiang pursed his lips, but he still stood tall. Go, Xie Lian said. WuXiang looked at him, speaking not a word. Then he bowed deeply and really turned around to walk away. Watching his retreating back, unblinking as it disappeared into the night, Function said in disbelief, Your Highness, you really just let him go just like that. What else can I do? I already said I don't like forcing other people. No, but that bastard! What's with him? He really just left like that, ran off, what the F? Xie Lian crouched down next to the riverside, rubbing his forehead. Never mind. Since his heart has already left us, what's the use in keeping him? Tie him up and force him to wash my clothes? Function didn't know what else to say either and crouched down. A moment later he spat, well, damn it. That bastard can share in the wealth, but not the suffering. Running away the moment the shit hits the fan. Does he remember nothing of your kindness? I'm the one who told him not to remember it. So you too, there's no need to hang it around your lips. But he can't possibly really remember nothing. What the actual F? But don't you worry, Your Highness, I will never, ever leave you. Xie Lian forced a small smile, but didn't say anything. Shall we go back and pick up the king and queen? I'll find you a carriage. Just you wait here. Thank you for the trouble. Be careful. Function acknowledged and left, and Xie Lian rose to his feet and walked alongside the river for another while, his entire person still feeling a little light on his feet, like nothing was real. WuXiang's departure had really shocked him to the core. First, he had never thought that someone so close would just up and leave. Second, Xie Lian had always believed in forever. For example, friends who would always be friends forever. No betrayal, no deception, no breaking up. Perhaps there'd be times when they'd be apart, but it surely wouldn't be over reasons like life is too horrible. It's like how in stories, the hero and the beauty were a match made in heaven, so they should never part, remain true to each other forever and ever. If they couldn't, it must be because they were forced apart by a tragic death, not because the hero preferred to eat meat while the beauty preferred to eat fish, or because the hero scorned the beauty for spending too much time lavishly and the beauty scorned the hero for his bad habits. To suddenly step and lose one's footing, plunging millions of miles down to only discover you were still in the mortal realm, really wasn't a good feeling. Walking around randomly for a bit, there were suddenly a number of shimmering golden lights floating over from ahead. Only then did Xie Lian snap out of it. When he looked closer, he found the lights were actually lanterns. Lantern after lantern floating above the water, flowing over along the current of the river. There were also a couple of children laughingly playing by the riverside. He said, today is Zhangyan. In the past, there would always be a grand service performed by the Yongzheng Festival at the Royal Holy Pavilion. He looked forward to it long before the event and would never have forgotten. Now, he didn't keep anything in mind at all. He shook his head and continued on his way. Just then, a voice came from the road ahead. Kids, will you buy it? The voice was exceedingly old and raspy. It would be like, kids, will you buy it? Laced with a trace of chilling air of evil. Xie Lian instinctively knew something was wrong, and he gazed over, only to see the two children from earlier with lanterns in their hands stop by the roadside, looking at something with both curiosity and a little fear. Within the darkness in front of them sat a man. He seemed to be an elder in black robes, dirty and disheveled as he melted into one with the Black Knight. In his hand he held a lantern, and he beckoned the two children shadily. My lanterns are very different from the ordinary lanterns in your arms. They are rare treasures. If you make wishes, they're guaranteed to come true. The two children were doubtful. Really? Of course, look. The lantern in his hand was clearly unlit, but suddenly it glowed with an inexplicable red light. There were over 10 other lanterns on the ground next to him, and they too flickered with a haunting green light, exceedingly peculiar. The two small children were amazed, but Xie Lian knew exactly what he was looking at. Rare treasures. It was clearly phosphorants of the dead. The Zongguang Ghost Festival takes place in the middle of the 7th month. Oh, that's right, yes. And celebrates the underworld. There must be the souls of little ghosts sealed within the lanterns for it to glow such a peculiar light. As for this elder, he must be some sketch scam cultivator who captured the unlucky wandering feral spirits from who knows where and tied them into the lanterns. The two children didn't know about the trick and were clapping in delight, wanting to buy the lanterns. Xie Lian rushed over quickly. Oh, don't buy it. He's lying to you. Oh, you little bastard, what'd you say? That lantern isn't a treasure. It's a demonic contraption. There are little ghosts inside. If you bring this home to play, the ghosts will cling to you. When the children heard there were ghosts, they didn't dare linger and cried, ah! And they ran away. The elder leapt to his feet, yelling angrily, you dare ruin my business? Xie Lian reasoned, how can you conduct business here? Never mind ignorant children, even grown-ups who buy your wicked lanterns would fall into great misfortune. Maybe even get clung onto by resentful ghosts. Wouldn't that be a great wrong? Even if you must sell such a thing, you should go to a specialized place to sell. You make it sound so easy. Where would you find such a specialized place to sell things? Everyone just finds a random place and sets up shop. There's no ghost city, is there? Oh! He picked up a bunch of those ugly, poorly made lanterns, huffing as he got ready to leave. Xie Lian said, wait. What do you want? You gonna buy? No way. You actually plan on continuing to sell somewhere else? Where did the ghosts in your lanterns come from? I caught them on the barren battlefield. They're everywhere. Then weren't they the wandering souls of the deceased soldiers? Having heard this, it was impossible for Xie Lian to leave it alone, and he admonished solemnly, stop selling them. Today is Zongyang. If this stirs up anything, it won't be funny. Besides, those are the heroic souls of warriors. How can you sell them like trinkets? When people die, they either become nothing but wisps. So who cares if it's a heroic soul or not? The elder said, of course it's my old bones that are more important. We all gotta make a living around here. If you don't let me sell, what am I gonna do? Go homeless? If you're so passionate about this, why don't you spend the money, huh? You. In the end, Xie Lian admitted defeat. Fine, I'll buy. Then he reached into his pocket and scoured every corner only to dig out some pennies. Is this enough? Of course not. How can this little bit be enough? Xie Lian didn't know too well just how much money would be considered normal when buying over 10 lanterns, and he never looked at the price tag when he purchased things in the past. But under such woeful situations, he managed to learn how to bargain without being taught. Your lanterns don't look that pretty, and they're unlucky. You might as well sell them to me for cheap. It's already this price, and you're asking for cheaper? I've never seen anyone more broke than you. How embarrassing. Xie Lian could feel shame dig into his skin by his words. I'm a crown prince, I'm telling you. Never in my life has anyone called me broke. But just as the words left his lips, he regretted them. Still, the elder did not take his words seriously at all. Oh my God! And he laughed. If you're the crown prince, then I'm the good old emperor. Xie Lian felt a little relieved, but still felt awkward, and in the end, he might as well break all the broken jars. He said plainly, will you sell? This is all the money I've got. After much back and forth, the two finally completed the transaction. Xie Lian used that pathetically sad bit of money to buy over 10 ghost lanterns and brought them to the riverside. The elder disappeared the moment he got the money. Xie Lian, on the other hand, sat down by the shore and began tying each red knot wrapped over the lanterns, releasing all the little ghosts that were sealed by the spell, and performed a simple service for them. Oh, the red knot with the lanterns, like, oh, sparks of haunting ghost fires floated from each lantern. These souls were all new ghosts who'd recently passed away, bleary and unfocused, with no clear consciousness of their own, very weak and vulnerable, which is why the elder captured them so easily. When they were released from the cramped lanterns, they all swarmed around Xie Lian, encircling him intimately, sometimes rubbing up against him. He rose to his feet and urged softly, "Oh, go on, go, go, go." With the help of the gentle push of his hand, the spirits rose higher and higher, floating towards the horizon and gradually dissipating. This is what they called spirits returning to the world. Xie Lian gazed at the starry sky for a long time, when behind him came a little tiny little voice. "Your Highness," the voice called. When I saw the red knot, I was like, there's no way, but. Xie Lian was taken aback and instantly looked to where the voice came from. Only then did he notice there was a tiny ball of ghost fire who remained, oh my god! Not yet passed to the yonder heavens, nor dissipated into sparks. It seemed this little ghost was stronger than all the other little ghosts. Not only did it possess its own consciousness, it could also speak. He walked over bewildered. What? Were you calling me just now? Did you recognize me? Having been noticed, the little ball of ghost fire seemed to become lively, jumping up and down, judging by its voice. It also seemed to be a young man. "Of course I recognize you." "Oh, no, stop! Oh, no!" Xie Lian remembered that he was covered all in mud, seemingly unsightly and undignified, and he felt more and more awkward. He clenched his hand to a fist and pressed it against his lips, not really wanting to admit his identity. He thought, well, maybe he could just tell it was a mistake, and a moment later he schooled his expression. "Why have you remained here? Haven't I sent you all off? Have I perhaps missed a step?" Otherwise, why would there be one remaining after he performed the service? The ghost without a name floated before him, not too close, not too far, and answered, "Oh no, you've done nothing wrong. I'm the one who didn't want to leave, that's all." "Do you have an unfulfilled wish or some attachment?" "Yes," the nameless ghost said. "Then why don't you tell me? What is it? If it's not anything difficult, I'll do my best to help." Behind the back of this nameless ghost, there were 3,000 lanterns flowing languidly along the night. It said, "I have a beloved who is still in this world." Shut the frick up! Oh my god! The lanterns! The Lantern Festival! Oh, with all this! Oh, I see. Is it your wife? "No, Your Highness, we never married." "Oh. In fact, I might not be well remembered. We never really talked." "Never really talked," Xie Lian said. "Well, if that's the case, how did this person become the beloved that tied your spirit to the world? Just how beautiful must this person be?" "So then what is your wish?" "I want to protect them." The third person pronoun for he, she in Chinese has the same pronunciation but different characters. Hua Cheng used him, but Xie Lian understood it as her. So in this translation, them is used, since the discrepancy in meaning is not very consequential in this context. Yes, we know it's Hua Cheng. We know it is. Usually, a spirit's wish would be something like, "I want to tell her I love her," or "I want to have a round of physical relations," or the scarier, "I want her to accompany me down under." To protect was quite rare, and Xie Lian blinked. "But you are no longer of this world." The nameless ghost replied, "What of it?" "If you remain forcibly, you won't be able to rest in peace," Xie Lian said. The nameless ghost didn't seem to care. "I pray to never rest in peace." A wisp of wandering spirit was actually this stubborn. Typically, such a willful spirit was, 9 times out of 10, incredibly dangerous. Yet for some reason, Xie Lian didn't sense any murderous intent from it, so he wasn't concerned. He continued, "If your beloved knew you couldn't rest in peace because of them, they might feel guilty or troubled." The nameless ghost hesitated for a moment and replied, "Then I just won't let them know why I haven't gone." "After having seen so much, it'd be known sooner or later," Xie Lian said. "Then I won't let them find out I'm protecting them either." Having listened to this point, Xie Lian's heart couldn't help but be moved. He thought this man's love wasn't just talk. Within the lanterns were all the wandering feral spirits that the elder had been captured from the barren battlefield, so the one before him now must also be a young warrior. He said quietly, "This war separated you from your beloved. I'm sorry. I didn't win. However, the nameless ghost declared, to die in battle for you is my greatest honor." Xie Lian was instantly stunned. To die in battle for the crown prince is the greatest honor for a Shanla soldier was a phrase that some general from Shanla taught the soldiers. They used this slogan to incite their will to battle, proclaiming that even if they died, they would have died for a purpose, and in death they shall pass on to the immortal realm. That, of course, was a lie. Yet even though this young soldier had passed away, his soul drifting in the mortal realm, he still firmly remembered the phrase. And he answered with such solemnity and sincerity. Suddenly, Xie Lian felt the rims of his eyes grow hot and his vision become blurry. He said, "I'm sorry, forget me." The flickering flames of the nameless ghost fire burned brighter. "I won't forget. Your Highness, I am forever your most devoted believer." Xie Lian forced down a sob. "I've already lost all my believers. Believing in me won't do any good. It might even bring disaster. Did you know even my friend has left me?" The nameless ghost declared as if swearing an oath, "I won't." "You will," Xie Lian said. The ghost was insistent. "Believe me, Your Highness." "I don't believe you," Xie Lian said. He no longer believed anyone, and he no longer believed in himself either. Oh my God! 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 Is that it? Is that it? Oh, that's it. Of course it is. Of course that's it. Of course it is. Yay? Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Quality over quantity, huh? Oh, this volume's gonna destroy me, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh no! No, y'all. Oh no, I don't know what I just walked into, but I thought the first flashback was gonna be sad. No! This one's gonna be sadder. Well, this is gonna be really sad. This is gonna be heartbreaking, and we shouldn't be surprised because it's MXTX, and they love to take your heart and just crush it into oblivion, and that's exactly what they're doing with this volume already. I'm like losing my voice from yelling. But yeah, okay. So there are two pictures that come out of this chapter set. I don't know how I'm going to fit two pictures and a picture from the Manhua into the thumbnail. I'm going to have to cram them all in there because they're all so freaking good. And both these pictures are amazing. But, and they're both perfect pictures because they like just coincide with each other. It's like the present and the past all at once. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, MXTX? Oh my God. So book 4. Book 4 is all about the white cloth calamity. Look, okay, I'm going to posit lots of things, as you all know, in this discussion. And of course, the one thing I don't want is to be told whether I'm right or wrong. You can all snicker, grab your melon seeds, pop them in your mouth and go, ah, ha, 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 Romania, you fool, at how wrong I am. But I have, since Volume 1, been adamant that Xie Lian and the White No-Face are connected. They are very, very similar. And this chapter set, it makes them seem like they're one and the same at first, right? It makes them seem like they're one and the same because you have Bai WuXiang. Let's talk about Bai WuXiang first of all. Long Ying. I guess we can take the child off the equation. The child is Bai WuXiang. The child is Bai WuXiang. Bai WuXiang ate Long Ying. Okay. That sucks. That sucks a lot. That it ate Long Ying, took his body, and has been like feeding it up ever since. That's a great job. All right, yay. We don't know exactly. The thing about it is, this is kind of the interesting thing, is that we find out that Junwu nearly obliterated Bai WuXiang, but he held on as a little wispy spirit, kind of like Hua Cheng in this. Kind of like Hua Cheng in this set of chapters. I knew that was Hua Cheng even before the author's note. And when the author's note showed up, I could just picture people in the Discord. I'm recording this a little bit ahead because of scheduling, and I know people in the Discord are going to be like, Romania, don't read that. And I'm going to be like, too late, it's fine. But I knew it was Hua Cheng. Like, you know it is. You just know, right? It's too obvious. But the fact that he was this wispy spirit, the thing about it that's kind of crazy is that would suggest that this hasn't happened that long ago, right? The second ascension, has it been that long ago? How long? I guess my question is, how long was Bai WuXiang a little wispy spirit, like floating through the nether sphere? How long has Bai WuXiang been Lestat from Interview with the Vampire, eating the alligators and crawling his way back up to get back to Xie Lian? How long's it been going on? We don't know, and I guess that would tie to this Bai WuXiang death bit that we don't know exactly when that's happened yet. I'm going to keep it on the board because we're going to find out. But we know now that Long Ying, I'm going to put the adult over here because we know the kid is Bai WuXiang. Isn't that funny? I've asked them to keep in the Discord, a sheet of all my crazy theories. And I think at one point I theorized that Long Ying was maybe like the resurrected Bai WuXiang. Kind of. A little bit. Maybe. But it's funny that's all came back around. So, so we have Hua Cheng. The ring, the origins, we do kind of know his origins a little bit. I don't want to erase it quite yet because I don't feel like that's the last we've seen of him. But we do know that he died on the battlefield. Died on the battlefield and became a little spirit. And we'll talk about that, and the whole thing with imming and everything, we'll talk about all of that. But the fact that he died on the battlefield is just so heartbreaking, and we need to get that chapter. We need to go through this in order, right? Nothing else on here has really been talked about. We'll talk about the Rui thing. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But the fetus spirit origins, all of that, we didn't get really through anything. The thing that surprises me at this point, we've made it to the kiln. We made it. We made it inside the kiln. We're here. There's no Goshis or mountain spirits. I was for sure that when we got to the top of the kiln, popped down inside, that there would be the Goshi hanging out, the mountain spirits would all be there, the gang would all be here, ready to tell Xie Lian what's been going on, but they aren't. And I'm kind of baffled by that at this point. I feel like this is paralleling volume 2. It's paralleling volume 2 really good. In that volume 2 ended, book 1 ended with Xie Lian striking down at Qirong to kill him. And then it went to book 2. We flashed back, learned Xie Lian's backstory, and then we came back and Xie Lian decided not to kill him. So the only thing that makes me feel better is that MXTX gave us a fake out back then, and I think MXTX is giving us another fake out here where, we think Xie Lian's getting this mask put on him, something bad's going to happen, we're going to go back and learn about this mask, and then when we come back, we're going to find out whatever's going to happen. But this is, Bai WuXiang is so fascinating because he torments Xie Lian so much, he teases and torments him so much, and it's just like he devours Long Ying so he could get back up to Mount Tonglu. But I believe fully that Bai WuXiang does not want Xie Lian to become a supreme. No, Bai WuXiang is the biggest troll on the planet. There is no way that he wants Xie Lian to come out of there and be the supreme. No, that's not what it's after. What it's trying to do is it wants to tear, it has gone back to Mount Tonglu. It wants to kill Xie Lian and then absorb it. Absorb him and become the supreme. That's what he wants to do. He wants to break Xie Lian down. He wants to break Xie Lian down and then absorb him and become the supreme ghost that no one can stop. And here's the thing. I'm sure that the whole point of that is that if Xie Lian is gone, then Hua Cheng, I feel like if he destroys Xie Lian, then Hua Cheng is either going to like go into despair or destroy himself because he'll see no purpose in living anymore. As far as Heshan goes, we have no clue where he's at, but he's not that strong. At least not as strong as Bai WuXiang, we don't think. And he's pretty much just done. He doesn't want to do anything. Qirong is nothing. So if Bai WuXiang gets rid of Xie Lian, that's his only possible competition because he has Hua Cheng, then it's over. He's won. Bai WuXiang is not going to be able to be stopped, right? That we know of. I mean, if he comes out of the kiln stronger than he was before, and Xie Lian is hinting that it was a pretty long and hard battle with Junwu, there's a chance that Bai WuXiang can defeat Junwu. And then what do we do, right? So I think he's trying to get Xie Lian whittled down to nothing. And for Xie Lian, he's going to make Xie Lian relive the worst moments of his life, which I thought the first flashback was bad enough. But nope, I'm already getting vibes that nope, that's not the case. And it feels like he's trying to whittle Xie Lian down mentally and spiritually to the point where he's willing to kill himself. And at this point, he's practically immortal. It's just the curse shackle keeps him from aging and dying. So there's that. But he's going to break him down until Xie Lian forcibly kills himself. And then he's going to absorb him. Now, the question is, does Bai WuXiang know that Xie Lian can't technically die because of the curse shackles? I don't know, but he's trying to just mentally just completely destroy Xie Lian, and by telling him that he's going to become the supreme ghost. And we'll talk about that when we get back up to the mountain. But I'm still surprised that the Goshis aren't there. They're not there. Where are they at? They hinted that it was this big ordeal. We have to be there at the mountain when they arrive, and yet they're not there. Are they fashionably late? What is going on? My theory is that Bai WuXiang, what I think happened was that Bai WuXiang, again, we go back to this theory, I think that he did ascend, and then I think the whole Wuyong thing happened, and it was a disaster, and then I think that after that, he was banished. Either he was banished or he destroyed the court, right? And then after that, he killed himself. He killed himself and then became the ghost Bai WuXiang, and then found out about Xie Lian and is just tormenting him because he's like him. I think that's the case. I think Bai WuXiang sees Xie Lian as a version of himself, and he's like, look at you thinking you have everything, and he's just come to wreck stuff because everything's gone horribly wrong for him. I don't know. The only thing weird about it is that him and Xie Lian are evenly matched, and it seems like he knows every one of Xie Lian's moves. Now, that doesn't mean anything because he could just be a really skilled swordsman, and Xie Lian is scared of Bai WuXiang, so there's a very good chance that Xie Lian, because he's scared of Bai WuXiang, is revealing what his moves are. And so that's why he can't fight him, because he's so scared of him that he's just showing himself and Bai WuXiang can react to it. I don't know how him and Xie Lian can be the same person. I don't know how that works, unless it's a reincarnation, and this was just, he was the reincarnated version of Bai WuXiang from back then. I don't know how that's possible, but Bai WuXiang just has his goat. He is so manipulative, and he just shows up to just taunt Xie Lian, and then he goes to the kiln to lure them there. He basically is like, hurry up to the kiln, I'm here. I'm like, you didn't have to do that. They were going to the kiln anyway. But they managed to like hike up and like get through all the paths and make it to the top. And that's when they find out that the kiln is closing and that Bai WuXiang is in there. And so Xie Lian's like, so is he a supreme or not? What happens if he's a supreme and goes in the kiln? And Hua Cheng's like, well, it's the same thing that happens as if when you face a calamity. If you get through it, you just get stronger. And Xie Lian's like, that's a really bad thing. He's like, I've got to go. And Hua Cheng's like, I'll come with you. Now, the part that's weird is that they both jump down there together. He tilted his head, and Hua Cheng's arm snaked around his waist. Oh, the kiss first. Yes, the kiss. Before we jump in the kiln, the kiss. Oh my God. He's like, there's one thing I have to do. And I was like, oh my God, you romantic son of a bitch. Like, of course you had to kiss him. Yes, before we go down there, if these are our last moments, I'm going to give you some spiritual power and we're going to go down there. I was like, oh. And at this point, I love that the novel acknowledges that Xie Lian's like, yeah, all those things were just bullshit excuses. We just are making out. So I'm like, yes. And that's the first picture that we get of this chapter set is this beautiful kissing shot with the two of them. Look at it, gaze at it. It's beautiful. I love it so much. And Xie Lian's little blushy face. It's so freaking cute. But yes, I love that Xie Lian's like, oh, I haven't paid you back for all the times before. And Hua Cheng's like, oh, you'll get to pay me back. Don't you worry. I was like, oh my God. And he's like, I love that Xie Lian gets so flabbergasted by the kiss that he just runs in the wrong direction. He's like trying to put his hat on and off. He's like so flabbergasted. He's like, I just don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, Xie Lian, you sweet bean. I'm like, oh my God. And Hua Cheng's like, it's okay. You know, I'll lend you some spiritual power in case of an emergency. And then there we go. And so they stand side by side and stare at the abyss. Now at this point, and Hua Cheng says, after this is resolved, I'll show Gege my proudest achievement in sculpture. So again, he's got to show Xie Lian that sculpture. He's got to show him that big, whatever his grandiose statue is that he's created. I'm sure it's like this big old statue that he's going to show him, but he's got to show him what it is. So it's almost like a promise. He's like, we're going to make it out and I'm going to show you that. Okay. Just so you know, it's like a promise to him. Like that's how I'm going to show you what's going on. And so they jump down together. And it says that the gust of winds, the force hadn't separated their hands and they held to each other even harder. And halfway down, his hand was empty. And he feels like San Long is gone. And that's when the white no-face shows up. And he yells out San Long's name because he's worried about Hua Cheng being in trouble. And so I don't believe Bai WuXiang for a second. No, I think Bai WuXiang is lying like a dog. Bai WuXiang has already revealed that he's a liar and he's a good liar and he's not afraid to lie. So when he says that Hua Cheng's gone, I'm like, I highly doubt it, right? They're just trapped in them. He gripped Function and pointed the sword. Well, what's going on? Where is he? Where is he right now? And he's like, oh, what do you mean he's gone? And at first he says he's dead. And the whole time he was doing all this, I wanted Xie Lian to look at his hand to see if the red string was still there. Because if the red string is there, he's clearly not dead. And he can just use it to find him. So that's what I was waiting for Xie Lian to do. But the white no-face just gets Xie Lian into such a panic that he doesn't think straight. And I'm like, Xie Lian, if you just follow the red string of fate on your finger, then you will find Hua Cheng. And my only hope is that when this book is over and we go, or when this flashback is over and we go back to the present, that Xie Lian will use the red string of fate, or Hua Cheng will have used the red string of fate to find him again. I am very hopeful of that, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not, right? He says, fine, I was talking nonsense. I sent him outside the kiln. Even if he wants to rush back, it's too late. And I don't believe that a bit. No, I don't think that he did that at all. I think it's another lie. I'm like, Xie Lian. But Xie Lian's so relieved that Hua Cheng seems to be okay that he's like, oh, well, that's fine. I'm like, what do you mean that's fine, Xie Lian? And so then that's when he says it's probably for the best, even if you wouldn't agree right now. Who knows if he'll still want to be with you when he sees what you'll become. And that's the suggestion. He thinks Xie Lian's going to kill himself and become a supreme ghost. And he's like, oh, your lover won't want to be with you if you're a ghost. You won't be a god anymore. You'll be a ghost and he won't want to be with you. And I'm like, Bai WuXiang is just cruel. He is cruel and he's playing games with Xie Lian. It's very, very troubling. I'm like, why? Stop your nonsense indeed. And he's like, why'd you come to kill him? Because of you. You came here, so I did too. That's the thing. I'm like, is the white no-face is real. Hua Cheng has seen it. So has Xie Lian. It's a real ghost. But Why is it so obsessed with Xie Lian? Why does it want to follow him? Why does it seem like him? Why does it know all his moves? Why does it copy him? Why is it obsessed with him? I don't understand. Like, is it a shadow? Is it like, does Xie Lian split into two? What? I'm very curious why Bai WuXiang is so obsessed with him, other than that he sees it's like him, and so he just copies them out of this weird obsession. It would be kind of cool if the white no-faced and Hua Cheng were two sides of obsession. Like, Hua Cheng reveres Xie Lian and worships him, but that worship has become, I mean, it's always been love, but it's become like a true, genuine love. Like, he doesn't worship Xie Lian now. He did back in the day, and he's like, oh, that was a phase. Hua Cheng's like, that was a phase. Don't mind all these statues that I made of you. But he genuinely does love Xie Lian. And he doesn't just worship him, he wants to protect him, right? He's the biggest, he's like, he believes in Xie Lian the most and wants to protect him the most, right? And there's that side of the spectrum. And then I feel like Bai WuXiang is the opposite side of the spectrum, where it's like yandere obsession, where he like wants just Xie Lian all to himself, and it's like a yandere creepy vibe of like, I'll kill everyone to get to you. And it's like, wait, what? So if Bai WuXiang ends up like being obsessed with Xie Lian, and that's what this all is, I don't know. We're getting finally to the book to find answers, but I don't know. And he manages to grab Xie Lian and bash him into the ground, which I'm telling you right now, if Hua Cheng finds out that Bai WuXiang has been beating Xie Lian up like this, it's not going to be good. I would not want to be Bai WuXiang and be worried about that, right? But maybe, and part of me thinks that maybe Hua Cheng is gone because Bai WuXiang like hurting Xie Lian like this, you would think he'd not want to do that because he knows he'd make Hua Cheng angry, but maybe he just doesn't care. I don't know. And so then he says, you can't win. Like, he could read his mind. Like, And then he like gets yanked back and says that he's sad and pitiful. Every time I meet your highness, you always look like this, and it makes one ache and it makes one excited. Again, he's like, just yandere for him. It's weird. And he says, Junwu will kill you again. And he's like, oh, who says that I will emerge from the kiln? And he's like, the third, aren't you all about third paths? I'm like, that's so cruel. That's so mean, talking about the third path and saying that, well, if you can't kill me, either way, either I have to be killed. He's like, there's two paths. Either the white face kills him and emerges from the kiln, or the two are trapped forever. The other thing is if Xie Lian kills the white no-face and emerges from the kiln. But my thing is, why does he have to kill himself to kill the white no-face? Can heavenly officials not kill ghosts? How does that work? Why doesn't he just kill the white no-face without killing himself? Why does there have to be, why is this the third path? Why is that? No. I'm like, Bai WuXiang, quit bending the rules and just playing with them. Stop it. And then he says, this crying mask suits you. And Xie Lian tells him to take it away. And he says, your memory's not that great. Let me help you remember. So, I mean, it should surprise nobody that the white no-face would have the ability to make Xie Lian look back on his memories, just like what Hua Cheng did. Hua Cheng had a satellite dish looking at Yin Yu's memories, so why should we think that Bai WuXiang can't do the same, right? It should not surprise us that Bai WuXiang has that same ability at all. I tell you what, though, Book 4, The White Cloth Calamity. I've waited, I don't know how many volumes, I don't know how many weeks I've told y'all, I just want to know Bai WuXiang's backstory. I just want to know the backstory. And we're here. It only took us 6 volumes, but we're here. And I hate it. You ever felt instant regret? This is what this feels like. Yes, sirree, Bob. You know why? Because we open up this book with Xie Lian having a nightmare about his parents committing suicide and him following them. Without grief, joy, no tears. He just woodenly prepares a white silk band for himself. I said that the white silk band that's Ruyi, was it something that hung Xie Lian? Could be. I don't like where this is headed. I don't like where this is headed at all. In fact, I don't like where it's headed at all. In fact, nope, no. I don't know. I'm like, is Ruyi, it was the white cloth there. Is Ruyi like a hangman's cloth? What? So we start out volume 2. We start out book 2 with Xie Lian going back into the past. He's about to kill someone. He goes back into the past, and it starts out with the grandiose festival and the parade and everything, and Xie Lian's late, and it all feels so grandiose and wonderful. This book starts out with Xie Lian at the bottom of the barrel. So this is post Shanla's fall. Shanla's fell. Xie Lian, let me get his name right on here. Xie Lian has been banished, and he's hiding his parents from being found, and MXTX and Function are with him. And he's getting used to not being a prince or a heavenly official. I feel like this is like the worst time of Xie Lian, because by the time we meet Xie Lian at the beginning of the story, he's been doing this for like 700, 800 years. And so he's kind of numb to all of it. And he's just kind of like, everything's fine. And I've been, self-harm and starvation for years. But I can't die. So I'm just stuck like this forever. And some things are said that are interesting in this. But the fact that Xie Lian is having suicidal ideations in his dreams is very disturbing. And I don't like it at all. I don't like that one bit. He clearly is sad and depressed about not being a heavenly official anymore and about being banished. And he is hiding his face, because it didn't dawn on me at the time reading the other volumes. But yeah, if this is right after the fall of Shanla, he wouldn't want to be seen in public because he couldn't show his face because they know he's the prince. So he has to hide his face, right? It's absolutely terrible. And he feels for his neck, wondering if there's a strangulation mark. And that's when he remembers it's the curse shackle. So he has the curse shackle on his neck, the one that he got from being banished to become a mortal. So normally, we find out that with those that are banished, they age slower than normal humans, but eventually they age and die. That's how it usually is. But Junwu fabricated his curse shackle and showed mercy, leaving room for accommodations. The question of mercy is very interesting, because I'm like, is it mercy to like let him wander immortally for years in this depression? That depends, right? He sealed his age and his flesh body at the same time, allowing him to neither age nor die. So Junwu did him some favors, with heavy quotation marks, and the cursed shackle that he bears it basically has it's frozen Xie Lian's age. So Xie Lian's like a 20-year-old, perpetually a 20-year-old for the rest of his life, right? That's he's just stuck in this age. His body's never going to change. He looks like a 20-year-old for the rest of his days, right? But this is the thing. Junwu said, if you manage to ascend again, then everything from your previous life is forgiven and this thing will be removed. But that's not what happens. He not only still has the curse shackle, but now he has another one. And I don't know, maybe Junwu forgave him, but it doesn't seem like the curse shackle was taken off. So what is the deal? Did Xie Lian ask for the curse shackle to be kept on? He fought Junwu, and that battle lasted 10 minutes, and then he descended again. So, and we know that doing something good does not guarantee you an ascension, just something great. Oh no. So it is possible that the second ascension was because of Xie Lian doing something very bad. I could see why Xie Lian would be very upset, because Xie Lian's all about virtue, and his first ascension was because of something virtuous. like the other ascensions that we've seen, like with General Pei, with Pei Su. Those were all situations that were not favorable. They were all really bad. Yushi kills herself and ascends, right? After committing this great thing to save her kingdom. But Pei Ming and the others, some of the others, they did not do great things in battle. They just, horrible things happened, but it was great, and they ascended because of it. So I'm wondering now if Xie Lian, in this state that he's in, because Xie Lian is depressed, he doesn't have faith in anything. We'll talk about WuXiang. We will talk about WuXiang and that impact that it had on Xie Lian. But he's in a very bad place right now mentally. And so if Xie Lian ends up doing something horrible, whether it was intentional or not, and that causes him to ascend, I could see Xie Lian going straight to Junwu and being like, nope, I did something horrible. I can't live with myself. I don't want to be here. And if Junwu was like, well, you've got to be, you ascended, and he's like, then let me go, and Junwu says no, then I could see them fighting, and after 10 minutes, Junwu's like, fine, then leave. And he's like, good, and he takes the cursed shackle and goes. That's what I'm predicting now for the second ascension and descension, but how bad we talking? How bad's it gonna get? I'm nervous. But I think that what it is now is that something horrible happens and Xie Lian's like, nope, I don't want to be here. I don't deserve to be here. Xie Lian, like everything that happened in Shanla and him losing his kingdom and his parents being forced to go on the run and him being forced to like live out this life now as like an exile, it's really having a mental effect on him. And you can tell that Xie Lian was not prepared for this, and that it's not going well. Like the Xie Lian we know has had centuries to build up this wall around him, but this is like fresh Xie Lian, fresh off of exile, and things are not going as planned, right? And so he feels like a criminal. And so we find out that along the way, they've already been pawning things off. They've already been selling things, trying to make money. They realize that they don't need, like Feng Xin and WuXiang don't exactly need food, but they need money because WuXiang's still taking care of his mom, supposedly. And they're trying to like take care of the king and queen who are mortal and feed them. And Xie Lian, we established he's been like passing out from not having food over the last few days because he's not used to not needing food. And so the fact that he's starving over and over again is just something that he's adjusting to. So, and they talk about the jobs that they're trying to get to make money, but most of the jobs that the beggars are using aren't even for money. They're just for food or like little things to survive. And so MXTX does a really good job of pointing out like the system and how flawed and broken it is. And just MXTX does an amazing job of talking about the difficulty of poverty, in that it's not easy to break out of once you are there. And I really like that MXTX focuses on it in this way, because not only does MXTX take a character that we have grown to love over the course of the series, but they suddenly throw them into this poverty and show how easy it is to fall and how easy it is to get in this rut and not be able to work your way out of it. And you just end up in this like pit of despair. And it's something that's actually relatable to a lot of people. Like, it's so easy to fall on your face and then suddenly get stuck in this cycle where you can't dig yourself out. And that's kind of where Xie Lian is at. And so I like that MXTX takes the time to make something very realistic with it. And that Xie Lian, but I hate it. I hate the self-harm. Like, we've spent the last several volumes getting Xie Lian into a good place with Hua Cheng, and now Xie Lian is being forced to relive all these memories of self-harm, of self-doubt, of despair, where he was starving. It's awful. Now, the interesting thing here is that WuXiang suggests that they go busk, that they go be street performers. WuXiang suggests that they busk, and Xie Lian seems to agree. And we know from him being the Goshi of Lan Shanchu of Yong'an that he ends up actually doing it. He does become a street performer, and he's not, at that point, he's not afraid to shame himself and make fun of himself, because by that point, Xie Lian believes he's been a fool all this time. I wanted to cry reading these chapters. I almost did. I was getting really close to crying, and I was like, don't you dare. We've got to talk about this afterwards. But I was getting really close to crying because it's just so pitiful and sad. And it just, now MXTX is hitting us with just how deep this all runs, right? But Feng Xin still has some pride, And he's like, no, he's our crown prince. We can't let him busk out in the streets and be shameful. How dare it? No, no, no. And that's when the soldiers come in. The soldiers bustling around. Shanla has fallen. Yongen's taken over. The royals, it's like Anastasia it's like the family, from Anastasia. They're all on the run. And the soldiers and them are trying to find them. And so then Xie Lian and them go back to his house. And I love like this little brief moment of happiness where we see like him and his mom relating. Xie Lian gets his cooking skills from his mom. How about that, huh? Gets the cooking skills from the mom. And she seems to be doing fine. She seems to be adjusting the best she can. I like that Xie Lian is like this combination of his parents, right? Where Xie Lian gets this like fortitude, cooking, and the facade of everything is fine from his mom. Is his mom fine? Probably not. But is she putting on a smile and putting on a happy face and pretending like she is? Yes. Is her cooking awful? Yes. But is she showing fortitude and perseverance? Yes. And Xie Lian gets all of those things from her. Like, Xie Lian puts on a smile all the time, even when he's feeling terrible. Like, he puts on the facade, right? But from his father, there is this actual sense of despair, this pride, and this shame. And Xie Lian gets that too. He's just become really good at hiding it over the years from everybody else. But yeah, Xie Lian, he realizes his father is just as miserable as he is. And that moment where he says, like, well, who's the more shameful, the prince who fell from ascension or the king who lost his kingdom? He's like, neither of us can talk to each other because we're both miserable and we both know that we're both kind of to blame and we don't have anything to talk about except to commiserate. And he's like, none of us want to commiserate. And it's like, so yeah. So it's just a really bad situation and the king won't come out. The mom's just trying to cook, but they realize that the soldiers are looking for them. They're the prime targets and they've got to keep moving. And Xie Lian's like, I need to keep training and cultivating so I can keep strong. And she's like, well, you got to eat before you can do anything. And so then they ask Muqing and Fengshen to eat with them. And of course it makes Muqing and Fengshen sick, which is kind of hilarious. And so then they go work in the field. They are exhausted. They work all day. And then they get very little. They just get like very little pay and some food from it. And that's when they bring in the statue. Now what's interesting is at this point, we know that Qi Rong has been dispersing the statues too, right? So did Qi Rong die around this time? Was he one of the royal family members that died? Because he's not with them. He's not with the king and queen. So we're assuming Qi Rong's dead at this point. That Qi Rong has died. He's making the statues, which is funny. We talk about the statue of the kneeling statue, and it just coincides with the Manhua chapter. Because of course it does. But yes, so the divine statue that's kneeling. And it's just hard to read. It's hard because Xie Lian, he's not used to this. And they call him a god of misfortune. It would bring bad luck. But they're like, if you step on the statue, it'll bring you good fortune because it's symbolism. And it's like the reverse psychology of it. And they talk about how, well, is this inappropriate? And they're like, oh no, he should thank us because we're giving him merits by stepping on him. It's hard. I felt so bad for Xie Lian. And that he's so pitiful in this moment that he's like, what do I do? My statues have become a laughing stock. He's like, I'm this god of misfortune. I'm not good for anything. They consider me bad luck. And in this world, what you're considered is what you become, right? And so then everybody gets in a brawl. This big brawl breaks out, and they end up with nothing from it. And the worst part is, I think in this moment, that Muqing picks now to leave. Like, they work all day. They work, there's a brawl. They get nothing out of it. Xie Lian's been disgraced. And it's like Muqing sees the writing on the wall of like, this is not going to get any better. Like Xie Lian's like, well, we'll just pack up my parents and we'll leave here. And Wuxing's like, then what? Do we hide them again? Do we go find another job then? Well, what if they bring statues in? Are you going to leave again? And it's just going to be this big cycle. And Wuxing decides to leave. And the problem with it is like, I get Wuxing wanting to leave. I am kind of like Feng Shen, where I'm like, really, you're bringing up your mom now, but you haven't been bringing her up the entire time, and they've been doing this for what seems like months now. And Wuxing says, I can only do so much. I wanted to find that in here where they go, he's like, why don't you go rest? And they talk about that, and he says, I want to leave. Please permit me to leave. And then he says, I'm sorry, but my hands are tied. And he says, another reason is that we've been mired in this situation and have different ideas of how to pull ourselves out. Nothing will get better, even in 1,000,000 years. Our paths have diverged. And what's so sad is that Feng Shen's like, oh, I'll stay with you forever. Don't you worry. And he doesn't. He leaves because of Xianlan and the kid. He leaves. And Xie Lian, what made me nearly cry was Xie Lian talking about how he believes in forever. And he thought that, once they were friends, they were going to be friends forever. And it broke my heart because I was like, well, that's why Xie Lian doesn't want to connect with anybody. He doesn't want to be friends with any of the other heavenly officials. He didn't care about it before, but now in the present timeline, he doesn't want to do it because he thinks something bad's going to happen. And so far, he's been proven right every single time. Like, he befriends the Windmaster, and then all the stuff with Hashan happens. He befriends Qi Ying, and then he ends up leaving. Like, you can't blame Xie Lian for feeling so hopeless, because it's like he had this idea of what friendship was, and then like Wuxing just is like, it's too hard. And I think that in that moment, it's like Hua Cheng is the ultimate friend to him, like a real friend that sticks with you even when things get bad. And my heart was broken because it's just, we already know that Feng Shen leaves and we know Wuxing's left, but like to see Xie Lian like take it as bad as he does, right? That he's like, stop trying to guilt trip me. I'm just speaking the truth. Everyone has their own outlook. No one was born to be the center of the world, justice of the mortal realm. Perhaps you enjoy orbiting around another person, but others don't feel the same. And Xie Lian's like, I don't like forcing people, so you can go. And the thing about it is that Wuxing, he just bows deeply, turns around and walks away. And he's like, what else can I do? I just don't like forcing people. And he's like, if his heart has already left us, what's the use in making him stay? Should I force him to wash my clothes? I'm the one who told him not to remember it, so you don't have to bring it up constantly. But the thing about it is that that it shocked him to the core. And when the book says he never expected someone so close to him to leave just like that, he believed him forever, that friends would be friends forever with no betrayal, no deception, no breaking up. There would come a time when they'd have to part, but it wouldn't be for a reason like things got too horrible. Like for Xie Lian, that's what he's like. He's thinking maybe there would come a day when we'd have to separate and go our separate ways for a while, but we'd always come back. And here it's almost like Wuxing's like, no, this is too much. You're too much. You're too much. I can't. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for him. He's like the hero he'd read in the story, and the beauty were matched were made in heaven. They wouldn't part ways and remain true to each other forever and ever. And if they couldn't, it would be because they were forced apart by a tragic death and not because the hero preferred one thing or the other. And so he's like, it's not a pleasant feeling to lose your footing and plunge millions of miles to find yourself in the mortal realm when you hit the ground. It's heartbreaking. It really is. And I think Xie Lian, he loses so much faith in that moment because he's like, I thought we were more than that, but this is all it took. The going got tough and you were like, no. And the sad thing is there's people in real life that are like that, like people that you think are your friends. And then when things get tough, they're like, oh, I can't, this is too much. And they leave. And it's so heartbreaking. It really is. It crushed me. Reading Xie Lian be so sad. And being like, I can't help but really feel like, WuXiang, really, you couldn't try harder? And then he gets mad at Xie Lian for saying, like, for like, knowing he was acting and sticking with him. I'm like, Xie Lian is so selfless in that moment that no wonder WuXiang feels guilty. Because he's like, oh, you mean you stuck with me? And Xie Lian did. Probably because he wanted to just be with WuXiang. It's just, oh God, it's awful. It hurts so much. Dang it. And then we come to the Festival of Lanterns, the Festival of Ghosts. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's brought up that there is no ghost city, right? The man is trying to sell lanterns with the spirits in them, and Xie Lian's like, well, why are you doing this practice? And he's like, hey, I gotta make a living here. And Xie Lian's like, well, if only we had a black market. If only we had a place you could congregate and sell your stuff, and everybody knew it was shady when they entered, and so they knew what they were getting into. Which is what Hua Cheng ends up. So I'm wondering if Hua Cheng ends up creating the ghost city, so that it could be a place for the ghosts and the other people that are affiliated with the ghosts to congregate and sell, and be known that it's a shady establishment, so people know what they're getting into, and you're not just conning little kids into buying lanterns with dead soldiers' souls in them. I was like, oh my God, what? That's insanity, MXTX. Insanity. But it's fate, right? It's fate that Xie Lian met Hua Cheng at that old man at his stall. It's fate, isn't it? That they were always destined to meet one another, right? Because what are the odds? What are the odds that Xie Lian runs into this random man selling lanterns, and he manages to take, and the thing about it is he wants to buy, he feels so badly because he thinks, oh my God, these soldiers' souls, it's my fault they died. And now they're stuck in these lanterns, so I need to buy them all to spare them. Like, it's just Xie Lian's kind heart and his selflessness is like, he would have already won the golden ticket with Willy Wonka at this point, right? He would have already been in the glass elevator, would have shot out of the roof. He would have already won the game because he's so selfless. And he ends up spending the last of his money. Now, I'm sure Feng Shen's going to get mad at him because he spent all his money on these lanterns, but then he ends up buying them, and he's like, where can I sell these trinkets? There is no place for him to do that yet. And so he ends up haggling the man down and taking all of his money and then letting the little ghost go. And the moment that it said that, oh my God, that the little red knots, he says there, what does he say here? I'll buy. He didn't know what over a dozen lanterns would normally cost. He was like Lucille Bluth. He's like, what could a banana cost? $10? And then he said, your lanterns aren't well made. They're pretty cheap looking. And so he's like, I've never met anyone as broke as you. How embarrassing. And Xie Lian feels shame that he's called so broke. He's like, I'm a crown prince, I'm telling you. And it didn't hit me at that moment that he's not supposed to say those words. I was like, oh, wait. And then the man doesn't believe him. He's like, well, if you're the crown prince, I'm the emperor. And it's like, oh, well, you know. And so he gives him all the money that he has. And it says he began to untie each little red knot wrapping the lanterns. The moment he said red knot, I was like, or is one of those spirits Hua Cheng? Because MXTX wouldn't just throw around the word red knot without it being the case. And it is. The little wisps of ghost fire. They're bleary and unfocused. And they affectionately nuzzled him, swarming around him because he released them from the lanterns. He's like, oh, go on, go, go, go. No, I don't want to nuzzle you. And then they moved on. They returned to the world and were no more. But the one stayed behind. The little ball of ghost fire. And he's like, you recognize me? He's like, of course I recognized you. Okay, y'all. This is the saddest and sweetest thing in existence. I'm sorry. But Xie Lian with the little ghost fire. And he has the scarf wrapped around his neck because he's trying to like be able to put it over his head so he won't be noticed. But he sees the little ghost fire and it speaks to him. And he's like, well, why are you still here for some attachment? And he's like, yes, I was never married, but my beloved is here. And I'm like, Xie Lian, You had better damn well realize that this is Hua Cheng by the end of this. I swear, if by the end of book 4 he has not realized it's Hua Cheng, we're gonna have words. Because how could you not know? But you no longer belong to this world. He's like, what of it? I love that Hua Cheng is this little fire spirit, and he's like, what of it? Who cares if I'm dead? I'm gonna still support Xie Lian. So there. It's just so heartbreaking and heartwarming, and he's like, ugh. He says, you won't be able to rest in peace if you do that. And he's like, I'm willing to never rest in peace. Because Xie Lian's not with him. And so he's like, well, you know, if your beloved knew that you couldn't rest in peace because of them, they might feel troubled and guilty. And then that's when he says, then I won't let them know why I haven't left. So that makes me wonder, like, so Hua Cheng, that's when he decides he's not wanting Xie Lian to know that it's him. So it makes sense now why Hua Cheng did not want Xie Lian to know about the statues or know that he was worshiping him. He doesn't want Xie Lian to know that he is the little wisp of ghost fire because he thinks Xie Lian will feel guilty that he made him stick around. But I'm like, damn it, he loves you, Xie Lian. Realize it. Figure it out, damn it. Quit. Just figure it out. Know that he loves you and love him back because you know you do. And then he says, if you meet too often, they'll find out sooner or later. Then I won't let them know I'm protecting them either. That's why he stayed away. That's why he stayed away all this time, because he didn't want Xie Lian to figure out that he was the ghost that he knew from the lantern, and that he didn't want Xie Lian to feel guilty. And so he's realized that what this ghost has is real love. He said, the war separated you from your beloved. I'm sorry I didn't win. And he says, to die in battle for you is my greatest honor. And then that makes Xie Lian feel worse because he's like, oh, that was a propaganda soldier phrase that we ran across to get the troops riled up, but it didn't mean anything. So he thinks this little ghost is thinking of that when we know that Hua Cheng has loved Xie Lian long before that, right? He says, I'm sorry, forget me. He says, I won't forget your highness. I am forever your most devoted believer. And then Xie Lian's about to cry and he says, I've already lost all my believers. It won't do you any good. It could bring you disaster. Even my friend has left me. And he says, I won't. You will. Believe me, your highness, I don't. He no longer believed in anyone, especially himself. I feel like this is why WuXiang, and this is why Hua Cheng is so mad at WuXiang. Because he's like, you left Xie Lian and you made it to where he didn't believe in himself anymore. And this is your fault. I mean, it's not WuXiang's fault, but I know why Hua Cheng hates him now. Because he's like, you are so responsible in this for making my Gege feel so bad for himself. Now I want to know, what was that conversation on the mountain and why was Hua Cheng so mad about it? But we'll find out, I'm sure, eventually. But, so yeah, Hua Cheng is a little ghost spirit. And he's just like floating along. I don't know if he's going to follow Xie Lian or if he's going to disappear or if he's going to stay in the background and watch Xie Lian. I feel like he stays in the background and watches Xie Lian this entire time. I feel like Hua Cheng has followed Xie Lian from the very start and has just stayed in the background so Xie Lian doesn't know he's there so he doesn't feel bad about it. But he's been there all along, protecting him. If he's been there all along protecting him and watching over him, oh my God, if he has been protecting Xie Lian from the beginning to make sure he doesn't hurt himself, I will sob. I will absolutely sob. I was really close to in this one because I was like, if you tell me he's been watching over him for 800 years, then it's gonna happen. And I'm gonna just freak out. But then the question is, did he wait until he ascended this third time to show himself? Because now he was like, okay, he's ascended a third time. I guess now's the time I reveal myself because he could be in trouble. Okay. I have all the questions, and I have literally talked for almost an hour over 2 chapters. But yes, I'm just so, what else can I say? I'm heartbroken. I'm sad already. We've just started the flashback and it's already breaking my heart and crushing my soul. And it's also the most romantic thing ever with little Ghostfire Hua Cheng saying that he believes in Xie Lian and will follow him to the ends of the earth. I have a feeling that this volume is going to simultaneously become my favorite yet of the entire series. And it's also going to be the one that makes me cry. I don't think I've cried in this series yet. Have I cried reading? Have I cried? I cried about Yin Yu. I cried about Yin Yu and Qi Ying, but that was just because of how emotional it was. I cried with that. Have I cried any other part of this series yet? I think this volume might do it. I don't know. I think I've only cried with Qi Ying. I think it's taken that long to shed tears, but I can't remember. You all remember, I'm sure. Better than me. I have Xie Lian brain. I have Xie Lian brain right now. But yeah, I have a feeling this volume is going to be my favorite, and it's also going to crush my soul. So I think you all tried to warn me that inadvertently, and I didn't listen. I didn't want to be spoiled. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. Sorry I was like this the whole time. That's pretty much me. I'm going to go take a cough drop and drink the rest of my coffee, which is counterintuitive. And I will be back next week. Next week we have 2 chapters again. Okay. We have chapters 182 and 183 next week, pages 139 to 162, which is about it's a little less than 30 pages. So maybe it won't be as long next week. Maybe, but you all saw how much I got out of these 2 chapters, so we'll see. But in any case, I'll be back. There won't be any Manhua next week, but I'll be back next week with chapters 182 and 183 of Heaven Official's Blessing. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe and take care, and I'll see y'all then. Bye!